We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us this morning. My guest, Jeff Eller, he is one of those folks, and there are many of them out there that have problems with the plan that is proposed for new transit in Metro Nashville, the $9 billion plan. He's with No Tax for Tracks, and we can take your phone call, 737-7587. A lot of thoughts from folks, and again, we're streaming live on Facebook as well at newschannel5.com. You know, Jeff is saying so many apartment buildings, everything being built up here. Is a transit plan like this really needed of this scope when so many people are obviously now living in the city and don't have to really commute here? Is that part of the equation? Do you take that into account?
It's a factor to be taken into account. To make any kind of serious rail, subway, monorail plan, you have to look at density.
Yeah.
And when you look at the two cities where subway and or rail really works, it's Chicago and New York. And the reason is pretty simple. New York and Chicago went this way. Nashville, Davidson County has gone this way. Mm-hmm. So you want a lot of people in a small area, either high-rises, apartments, etc., who need access to some kind of transportation system in order to have the volume to make that system be viable. The light rail plan proposed by the city, there's not enough density to support it. You bring it down Gallatin Road. This is less a transit plan and more of an economic development plan to drive people into downtown. If you look closely at the map on our website, notaxfortracks.com with the number 4, or their site, and you look at the map, everything drives towards downtown. This is a plan designed to benefit the core people downtown, both from a business standpoint and those who are living downtown, at the expense of everybody who lives in the rest of the county or has to suffer the congestion problems who come in to work from outside the county.
So you think if this plan were to go through, and I know it will take years to be finally completed, that it's not going to cause a big change for those of us coming in from Wilson County, which I don't live in Davidson. Mm-hmm. I'll still be encountering heavy traffic on the interstates during rush hour, even with the light rail in place.
It's not going to change your commute at all. At a minimum, let's say,
unless the Wilson County gets on board and there's more of a connector and all.
Let's say if, and I think it's a big if, in the next 15 years, something happens that this plan changes to accommodate that. At a minimum, your drive from Wilson County to James Robertson Parkway will not change for 15 years. There's nothing in this plan, unless you want to drive, stop, park, get out, get on something, get off something, and possibly get back on something to end up here, add additional time and probably additional expense. So the answer to your question is no.
Let's go to Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hey, I've got a couple of comments, and I've got a comment or two maybe and a question. But, you know, back in the 1950s, they did a study on Nashville's transit system. It had just basically been sold to the city, and they weren't having ridership. And they did a study with a guy out of New York, and the company said, y'all's problem is you need new buses to make it attractive for people to ride. They did a study of how many people had to ride the bus as opposed to the volunteers to ride the bus. And they said what would do it is if y'all bought 10 new big buses, shiny buses every year. Well, you know, that benefits only certain people. We've had a problem with the bus ridership for years. I really think the big buses, Carl Dean brought on a bunch of big buses downtown, does not solve it. I think small buses would. We did an experiment in South Nashville going into the neighborhood, and in South Nashville, Antioch, that spread out. But that bus that came by was a once every 12-hour bus, so that was a waste of time, wrong neighborhood. What I want to ask this gentleman here is I think there might be a little bit of an extortion going on. This is just my quote-unquote conspiracy theory. They're getting ready to dig in out at Madison Square in Madison and over in Donaldson around the train station and build these huge developments. Donaldson Pike Lebanon Pike is a major intersection. I think it would block the traffic from Wilson County. And when you go out to Madison Square, it's already a nightmare on Gallatin Pike. And to build something there, it would completely lock down the traffic, I think, from Gallatin. So what do you think about that? I'll take your comments off the air.
All right.
Well, I think let's start with the bus situation. Ridership of the MTA buses here in Davidson County is not great. It's never been great, and there's nothing in this plan that's going to make it great because it lacks flexibility. It doesn't accommodate for the people who really want it, who really need it. It's been said multiple times. In fact, the city has said this. They want to do different hours of service. There are people who work the overnight shift can't ride the bus because the bus doesn't run past 10 o'clock. You could do all of those things today. Buses, as part of an overall plan, are a great thing to have because they are incredibly flexible. You can change them. You can change them fast. You can swap them out you can swap routes out. And yet, at the same time, there has been an incredible lack of inability to do that. And there's nothing in this plan that changes that. Now, to her question on the development corridors that she talked about, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the development of those two primary areas that she talked about. But what I do think is the unsaid piece of this plan is this is about economic development, not about transit. It's about how do you accommodate what has become a booming downtown in a more rational way. And if that's what you want, then this plan has a lot of things in it for you. But if you live in Antioch or Bellevue or Hermitage or North Nashville, you're going to do what you've been doing for a long time. You're going to send your money downtown and you're not going to get much back for it.
What do you mean by that? Send your money downtown and get much back?
You're going to pay one of the highest sales taxes of any major city in the U.S. if this plan passes. And that money's going to go to a plan that does very little to help you in Bellevue or Antioch or Hermitage or North Nashville.
So you don't think folks in Hermitage will be able to, instead of drive into work, take the rail system?
I think that if they ultimately put the light rail plan, they're going to have to drive to it, get off of it, get on something else, and it may not go where they want it to go because the moment you lay track, your flexibility's gone.
Yeah.
You don't pull that track up 2 days later.
The track doesn't go everywhere, that's for sure.
And the track doesn't go everywhere. It doesn't accommodate for growth. It doesn't accommodate for flexibility.
Let's take another call. We'll go to Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I thank you for all that you do, Nick. You're just great.
Sure. Well, thanks for
I watch you a lot, and you're just wonderful. But I'm against this Mass Transit Overhaul. I don't think it's going to help all of Nashvillians. It's just going to help the downtown people. It seems like everything that comes along in Nashville only helps the downtown area. And I'd like to see more money spent on our roads. We need an overhaul on all of our roads. They're terrible. We don't just have potholes. We have whole roads. I live in the Trevecca community in the high-rise right off of Murfreesboro Road, and it's terrible over here. And you know, people visiting our town, they're not complaining about so much the traffic as they are our roads. 440 has been messed up for years. And I remember years ago traveling 440, and I thought, when are they going to ever pave this road? And what we do is we build these big buildings, like they're building two big buildings close to me, the Family Justice Center and the police headquarters right up from me. They build all these big major buildings, and there's going to be more traffic, but yet they don't accommodate for the traffic before they get these buildings built.
Boy, you're preaching to the choir on that one in terms of like, hey, I think that happened where I'm at in Mount Juliet. You know, the growth comes and then they, oh my gosh, we've got congestion. All right, so what she's talking about there is spending more money perhaps on roads, but she makes a good point too. More people just keep moving. moving here. So I just want a solution that eases the congestion in general. I'm open to whatever, something like that. I think most people would say, yeah, I'd like it to be easier for us. So she's saying spend more money on the roads. And, you know, certainly you got to upgrade. People are always going to drive.
They are.
But I think people could drive less. I guess
they could if they have an incentive to do so.
That's right.
And it's been shown in other cities, if there's an incentive to drive less in an accommodating way, it will do it. That's exactly where we think. That's why we think you got to vote against this in order to force the city to come back to the table. And instead of not only listen, but hear what people need.
I'm so frustrated, and I hear. Okay, here's the thing, though. We spent so much time coming up with this, and this may not be the perfect plan, but I'm worried if it fails, and there may be very good reasons that you're bringing up here, and that a lot of people I think agree with. That it's just because here's the thing: if we do nothing, we're doomed. That's my take. Okay, if we do nothing, we're doomed. You may not think so. You may have rose-colored contact lenses on, but it is brutal. All right, and this is getting worse. And anyone who doesn't think so is wrong. It is brutal, the traffic in the city and the interstates. Something needs to be done. And so my concern is this may not be the right plan, but then we just throw it back. Let's do more blue ribbon panels, and let's come up with another plan. And then there's always going to be critics no matter what, and nothing. The solution that I cannot accept is doing nothing. Okay, period. End of story. Does that mean we swallow a plan we don't really like? Not necessarily. But I just worry if we do what you're suggesting, we go, let's go back and do it. More blue ribbon panels. More crap, more nothing being done.
You make really valid points. We think you have to vote against it in order to have on May 2nd to tell the leadership of the city you got to do it different, and you got to do it now.
And then you need a demand to do it now.
And you got to do it now.
You got to do it now. Okay.
You got to bring. You talk about blue ribbon panels. You talk about long extended processes.
I got you.
None of us want that.
I got you.
What we do want is we want leadership from the city that puts people in a room, locks the door, and says, we are not coming out of here until we have a viable alternative that at least people will understand. Watch the commercials of the other side. There are zero details.
Now, I'm curious, I don't know if no tax for tracks, is the alternative proposal coming from you guys or others? I mean you're talking on some, but are you going to offer an option maybe that could give them a starting point?
There are multiple points out there right now of people discussing alternatives.
I've heard many,
There's 2 or 3 other organizations who believe this is not the right plan, who are advocating possible solutions. And we also know there's at least one member of the Metro Council who is very close to being ready to putting a viable alternative plan on the table.
You guys working with them?
We've had conversations. It's not our plan; it's going to be his, and so I'm not going to front run him on that. But the point is, on May 2nd, this mayor, your new mayor, has an opportunity to provide a very different, distinct kind of leadership. Put them in the room, lock the door, don't come out until there's an opportunity.
For that. We should do that on a lot of issues, by the way, I think, Jeff. All right, we'll take a break. We've got several phone calls now, and a lot of people with thoughts and opinions. We'll take your calls, and I'll scroll through some of the comments many of you have been sending us right now on Facebook at newschannel5.com. More with Jeff Eller, no tax for tracks, and we'll take your calls right after this.